Good evening, everyone. I would like to call the business meeting of the Portland Board of Public Education to order. It is Tuesday, February 21st, 2017, and the Portland Board of Public Education is meeting at City Hall in Council Chambers. May I please ask the superintendent to call the rolls?
Yes, Ms. Seeliger, Ms. Vendel,
Here.
Ms. Hatzenbuehler,
Here.
Ms. Davis,
Here.
Ms. Thompson,
Here.
Ms. Morioni, Mr. Eater, Mr. Rodriguez,
Presente.
Ms. Donato,
Here.
Ms. Farah, Ms. Hassan, Mr. Siegel, and Chair Trevorrow.
Here, and I would note that since it is school vacation week and this was a makeup meeting from last week, those members that are not present tonight did notify me ahead of time that they have personal obligations. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we're going to make a slight change in order here tonight because we realized that we do have a number of members of the public who came to address us this evening. And rather than making you wait until the end of the meeting, we thought we would take public comment at the beginning of the meeting. This would be public comment on any item that is not on this evening's agenda. If your comments are on items that are on the agenda, you'll have an opportunity for public comment during those items. So I would call anyone who wishes to address the board to the podium. Please state your name and address.
Okay, my name is Christina Malcolmson.
It's the little red button there.
Okay, my name is Christina Malcolmson, and my address is 70 Gleckler Road, Portland, Maine. And I came to give the speech, and it doesn't sound like I really need to, but I thought I would just say a few things, one of which is very grateful to Superintendent Botana for his letter to the parents and teachers and students. I think the students probably appreciate it very much. I also think that the claim that his letter promoted a partisan agenda is totally false, and that the issue is not a partisan issue but a constitutional one, and it has to do with the constitutionality of the travel ban as it was written and as it will be revised, because I think the ban also restricts immigrants from the same 7 predominantly Muslim countries, as far as I know. And it's not partisan, partly because 4 federal judges have ruled against the ban. 2 of the judges are Republicans, as you may all know. And as the Washington State argued in the Ninth Circuit, the states are likely to prevail on our equal protection claim because the executive order is motivated by discriminatory animus and cannot survive any level of review. A great statement, in my opinion. That is, I think the travel ban is unconstitutional because of the Establishment Clause, which has to do with not allowing any kind of religion to be established as the state religion, and that any religion should be permitted in any aspect of exercising it. And I also wanted to point out that many other schools have put out statements meant to reassure their students that they were protected from the negative effects of the ban, including Bates College President Clayton Spencer, who said, "I'm appalled by the executive order and the inhumane manner in which it is being implemented. The order is antithetical to American values and the principles on which Bates was founded and continues to stand." And many Ivy League schools have brought a suit against the travel ban, including Yale, Harvard, Stanford, Cornell, Duke, and many state schools have also spoken out against the ban, including Des Moines Public Schools, Iowa City Schools, St. Louis City Schools, New York City Schools, Denver Public Schools. So I don't think it's right to say that Superintendent Botana's statement is partisan. It's an appropriate response to an unconstitutional ban. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me this chance. I'm Ina Demers. I live on 4 Gorham Road in Wiscasset, Maine. And I too would like to thank Superintendent Botana for what he did, because I know that as an immigrant or a refugee, we do feel displaced already without having to be told by other people. And the day after Mr. Trump was elected, many of our children at Reiki School were crying and were very sad because they were afraid that their parents would be deported because they're not citizens from the United States. And we dealt with those, and even now still. But I just want to say that there was a governor, I can't remember from where, but she has prohibited the state workers to help the ICE. The ICE people. And that took a lot of courage for her, and I wish we also have a governor who would do that here, especially after he had cut off general assistance for the undocumented citizens, and also especially for the towns and cities that is sanctuary city or town. So I'm glad that you, as our superintendent, is doing this for all the children, especially those who are coming from different countries. So thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Boggs. I live at 110 Edgeworth Avenue. I'm the mother of a first grader at Longfellow. And I had originally emailed some comments to the board, and one of them said, why don't you come and talk to us in person? So that's why I'm here. I am the parent of a mixed-race first grader at Longfellow Elementary. I myself am an immigrant and U.S. citizen. I'm here in support of Superintendent Javier Botana and his letter and recent actions. Mr. Botana's statements for the safety and care of all Portland students is significant to me, to my child, and to our neighbors and friends. I also support any other efforts you all have made and will make to support our immigrant students, Muslim students, and students of color. Thank you for your time. This is the email part. And so I wrote this email before I learned about these resolutions, and when I learned about the workshop, I was very eager to come and hear more about it. I understand the concern of, I heard the term singling out one population, the minority or the population that is experiencing whatever the challenges are. Currently, we're talking about the Muslim students. I just wanted to say that although I am Filipino by birth, I was raised white, which is a very interesting perspective. I think that letters like yours and statements like the potential resolutions says a lot to our white students as well. It says, certainly this is very important, that our minority students hear, that we hear and see them. But by doing that, we're also telling the white students, this is how you treat others. This is how America should work. And so I don't want to forget that. Maybe we don't name them by race or by religion, Christianity, or whatever that majority group is. But I just want to say that these kinds of statements and resolutions are good for all of our students. And thank you very much for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
I'm Doris Santoro. I live at 164 Neal Street. And I also want to thank Superintendent Botana for his moral courage in sending the letter. That letter is on my door at Bowdoin College, where I am a professor of education. And it is highlighted and posted there as a symbol of the principles that we need to live by as educators. So thank you for living those principles.
Thank you.
I am Rosemary Colston. I live at 61 Thomas Street in Portland. I have no notes, and the reason I'm here is I wrote a letter to the newspaper about the incident outside the high school, and somebody phoned me and invited me to come. And what I am concerned about in these situations is that we have a lot of, as I don't know if I told you that I am an immigrant. I came here as an immigrant, and now I'm a citizen. There are a lot of children in our schools, and also older, who have grown up as Americans in America. They were born here and they are Americans, and they are really suffering, a lot of them, because they've been brought up in very bad homes, or they're very, very poor, and they haven't had the experience of a lot of American kids. And so they tend to drop out of school, and they tend to get into trouble. They ride their bikes around, and they see these immigrant children, which I think is wonderful. I mean, I was an immigrant, I'm all for immigrants. But what I want to know is anything going to be done about these kids who are bitter, they're dropouts? We have a new president, who is, sorry, I think of him as an emperor sometimes. We have, who makes these terrible off-the-cuff statements. He's just, you never know what's going to happen next with him. And he has friends in the, the Duke guy and the set of people we don't want to talk about. But what is going to happen to bring reconciliation for these kids who have dropped out of school, or they don't really have good upbringing? And then they hear Trump, when he was in the primaries, saying, smack him in the mouth. You know, if somebody says something, get him out of here and smack him in the mouth. We have an atmosphere in this country now that is detrimental to children who are not brought up in good homes. They're looking at Trump as some kind of figure of authority, which of course he is, being the president, but they're looking at him as what's the word? I can't think. An example, as an example of being able to address things. And then they see the Muslim children waiting outside the school, and they think they'll harass them. But what is going to address? How are we going to address these kids who? And this is going to multiply. How are we going to help them? A lot of them are still in the schools. Are we going to do anything to bring reconciliation, or to bring awareness of the horrors that these immigrant children have gone through? And they need all the help we can give them. But how can we address the needs of the kids here who are underprivileged and who are angry when they see all the attention that is given to the immigrant children? And that is my concern. I was involved in reconciliation in Rwanda after the genocide, and so I have a heart for both sides. And thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Bruce Wood, Chandler's Wharf. I was at the Portland Street Mosque the day after the immigration order was signed, the day after the incident during high school. Superintendent Botana was there. He made a very emotional statement to the students, more than 40 teenagers. Most of them were Muslim, and their parents. They were all excited. They were all very energetic, enthusiastic crowd. and the superintendent's remarks, I'm sure, were very much appreciated and were obviously heartfelt. His statement, in my mind, was no way partisan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Leslie Kaner from Capissick Street, and I wanted to thank Superintendent Butana for his courage and for speaking out. I think in this political climate, it's just imperative that we speak out whenever we see some unjust, and so thank you.
My name's Dave Cowie. I'm resident of Portland. I live on North Street here in Portland. My daughter, Laura Ann Cowie, she's 26 years old now. She's a product of the Portland Public Schools, K to 12. And the education that she received was phenomenal. I'd like to applaud the teachers and administration of the Portland Public School System for having the courage to empower our children to advocate for what's right. And I also support the Superintendent Butana's stance with the children's decision to show support for their peers who were unjustly treated. I often wonder how we might act in times of trouble. When I think back of some of the horrible things that have happened throughout history, the Holocaust and other terrible types of events. And it's the work that you people are doing here tonight with your workshop and your resolutions that give me hope. And I congratulate you for the position that you're taking, and we support you.
Hi, my name is Yana Davis, 23 George Street, and I am a product of Deering High School. I've moved back to the area. I'm now raising my 1- and 3-year-old children just outside of Ocean Ave Elementary School, and I just wanted to come here tonight and thank you for your actions. I've been teaching for 10 years. I've been in some situations where you have to make a call to protect your students, and you made that call, and I applaud your courage. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments?
Can we clap for Superintendent Butana?
I know you want to, and we want to as well, but we actually don't allow those expressions during public comment simply because we want to make sure it's a fair environment for everybody. But thank you. Okay. So seeing none, then I will close the public comment, and we will move on with our meeting. So next on the agenda is the chair's report, and I don't have too much on my list tonight except to reiterate for the viewing public who I'm told will be able to hear us upon rebroadcast. The sound issue has not been resolved, but that we did begin this evening with a workshop on 3 resolutions that have been sponsored by Board Member Vendel. And those are the resolution condemning violence and hate speech and expressing support for our Muslim students, the resolution affirming employee speech rights, and the resolution of the Portland Board of Education's commitment to the education of all children and making Portland Public Schools a safe haven for students and families. And those will be up for a first read at our next meeting, which is 1 week from tonight on February 28th. And we will have a public hearing on the meeting after that, which is March 7th. And that will also be the night that we'll be taking these up for a vote. The other thing I just wanted to let the board know, just kind of as an FYI, is that there were some changes made to the Hall School Building Committee back in January following the election. The council approved the mayor's recommendation to change a couple of appointments. The only things that changed were to add Councilor Brian Batson to the committee and to reappoint two of the existing members as co-chairs, and those are Board Member Lori Davis and Councilor Nick Mavadonis. And all the other existing appointments remain the same. So I wanted to let you know about that. And if you didn't know, we have Board Member Sarah Thompson, Marnie Morioni, and Lori Davis appointed to that committee. That is everything I have. So moving into report of the students, and do we have?
Sarah's not here.
Okay. So we're tabling the report of the students for tonight. And report of the superintendent.
Thank you, Ms. Trevorrow. On February 7th, our district's Multilingual Multicultural Center joined other nonprofits at the 14th Annual Maine Nonprofit Day at the State House in Augusta. This year marked the first time that the Multilingual Multicultural Center had been selected for this annual event, and we were honored as a district to participate. The invitation affirmed the importance of our work to help our newcomer students learn English and succeed academically in their work. Our Multilingual Multicultural Center, as many of you know, oversees language acquisition for English language learners, ELL students in our districts. Multilingual's programs and services also include things such as Make It Happen, an extended learning program for English language learners in grades 8 through 12. It also includes parent community specialists who provide outreach and services for our ELL families, professional development for Portland Public Schools staff, and a robust world language program. On February 7th, staff, students, and I had lunch with members of Portland's legislative delegation and several other legislators who stopped by to meet with us. We greatly appreciated the opportunity to talk to them about the importance of the department's work. The event was a tremendous opportunity to help get the word out about all that our Multilingual Multicultural Center does to ensure the success of our district. I would like to thank our Multilingual Multicultural Center staff, particularly Director Dr. Grace Valenzuela, Tim Cronin, and Nanette Blake for their work coordinating this event. I also want to thank our great business partner, Unum, for sending nearly 30 volunteers to Presumpscot Elementary on January 18th, where they taught each grade a different, probably was difficult too, junior achievement lesson focused on financial literacy, entrepreneurship, and work readiness. They used hands-on games and activities to engage with more than 250 students in pre-kindergarten through 5th grade. I also want to thank Junior Achievement of Maine, a nonprofit organization that partners with business and schools to teach students in grades K through 12 about entrepreneurship, financial literacy, and work readiness. This type of partnership helps give our students the confidence, the skills, and the knowledge that can benefit them as they prepare for college and careers. Portland Public Schools has been in the news nationally over the past couple of weeks. First, I would like to recognize one of our outstanding student reps tonight, Casco Bay High student, Fario Hassan, who's not here. When Fario joined the board in early December, she was described by Casco Bay principal Derek Pierce as a vibrant and respected leader in that school community. We saw an example of her leadership just recently when she learned that 4 students at her school had been victims of a hate crime. The news of the attack came at the same time as the government ban on immigration immigration from 7 mostly Muslim countries. Faria was dismayed about the ban and the attack on her fellow students, but true to form, she turned that into positive action. She helped organize a January 30th walk of solidarity at the school, where about 300 students participated to speak out against hate and fear. The event drew national news coverage, and Farhia's role was featured in a February 1st New York Times article titled, "Everyone is Welcome Here." Next, Cameron King was featured in NBC Nightly News last Wednesday. Cameron is an outstanding freshman at Portland High School who has distinguished himself as the Portland Bulldog, the PHS team mascot. Cameron was featured because of his inspiring story of overcoming his deafness to become the school's mascot and thriving as a freshman in a large comprehensive high school. We're all proud of Cameron, and he's another wonderful example of the tremendous potential of our students. Finally, last week, Casco Bay High School's Eklas Ahmed was invited by Ellen DeGeneres to attend taping of her Ellen show in California. While on the show, Eklas was invited up to the stage and interviewed by Ellen, and to everyone's delight, given a check to pay off her student loans. Eklas is a great American story of perseverance and overcoming. As a former English language learner who came to Portland with her family from Sudan, she graduated from Casco Bay High School, went on to college, became a Make It Happen mentor, and is currently pursuing her master's degree. She works tirelessly to ensure that her Make It Happen students receive the support and encouragement that they need to become successful. So it was great to see the recognition and support that she received on the show and by the entire Portland community. These amazing Portland Public School stories have been an inspiration to me, and I know many others in our community, and it's great to know and see them now inspiring others across the country. I also wanted to take a minute to just inform the board that our scheduled presentation today from East End Community School on their school success plan has been deferred to the next meeting because of the, obviously because of the school vacation. I also wanted to discuss an issue that is, I know, of interest to the board, and this is the the submission of applications for major construction funding. As the board knows, we had a conversation about this in the operations committee meeting last week, and subsequent to that, I've contacted the architects who are working on developing the proposals for the 5 schools that were originally slated, that the architects had originally determined would be good recipients or good schools to apply for, and inquired with them about the possibility of adding a 6th school, Presumpscott, to their applications. And so they've agreed to do that, so I'm moving forward with having them develop a application for Presumpscott, so that'll be the 4 schools in the buildings for our future, Longfellow, Reiki, Presumpscott, and Lyseth, as well as the combined Casco Bay High School and Paths and Portland High School. Obviously, as the process with Buildings for Our Future moves its way through the council, there may be a time when we are in a position to withdraw those applications, but to Mrs. Davis's point, I wanted to make sure that we hedge all of our bets and have the opportunity to pursue funding for all of our buildings. I think it's fair to say that it's highly unlikely that all 6 of our schools will be selected, but making sure that we have the applications in, and that the ones that rate the highest are the ones that obviously would be the ones that would be first funded. So I just wanted to update the board on that. And then I also wanted to discuss in your packet, there is the city's CIP proposal as it currently stands. So that, as you saw in your packet, is significantly different from what was referred by the board to the city back in December. And so there you have an analysis in your packet about what is different in that CIP proposal. So again, as that moves its way through the Finance Committee and then eventually to the Portland City Council, I wanted you to be aware of that, those revisions. And that's my report.
Thank you. I also wanted to add, I forgot to mention in my report that next meeting on the 28th, we do have a workshop scheduled for committee reports. And I had emailed the chairs of committees, so probably over a week ago, to prepare a report for that meeting. So I just wanted to remind committee chairs to connect with your staff person and your committees and get a presentation ready for that.
We're doing that as a workshop.
And that is a workshop, yeah. Yes?
Can you be specific about like
We're looking for
5-minute little goal,
Yeah.
high level?
goals for the year.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we used to have a routine of doing it at the end of, before we switched over, and we've gotten away from that the last year and a half. And there is a template that we've used in the past, and so I'd be happy to send that around, and if people want to use that as their guide, that's up to the chair and the superintendent. But it used to be common practice when you're switching over the chairmanship to curriculum, for instance, the next person, to have the accomplishments for that year, what the goals are, and what they're going to be working on for the next year. And then in the past, the board would have a conversation about that to make sure we're all in agreement for the work.
Okay, moving into report of the secretary. Consideration and action to approve the meeting minutes of January 17 and 31, 2017. Is there a motion? Ms. Bendel, seconded by Ms. Davis. I'm sorry, Ms. Davis, did you have?
There are at least 2 typos in there that just should get corrected.
If you'll give them to me, I'll be
Yep.
able to.
They had internal, and I think it's supposed to be international.
Okay, are there any other questions on the meeting minutes? Is there any public comment on the meeting minutes? Seeing none. Any board discussion?
We're all going to be looking at you.
Any board discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes of January 17 and 31 with Ms. Davis's suggestions? So indicate. It is unanimous with the student voting in the affirmative. Okay, moving on to report of the committees. Curriculum, Ms. Morioni is not with us, but I understand Mr. Rodriguez will be updating us.
Thank you, Chair. So I have a few notes written from Ms. Morioni. Ms. Morioni, Chair of the Curriculum Committee, is traveling and she's unable to be here tonight. She asked me to report on our recent committee meeting held last Thursday, February 16th. During our meeting, we first received a summary of the 2016 Summer Learning Program. The summer program was very successful. Over 1,000 Portland students participated. We are very grateful to the staff, Ms. Sheila Jepson, Angela Atkinson-Duina, and Gail Tracy, for their hard work coordinating the summer programs and their work to track student improvement after their summer participation. The board will receive a full report in March, and which will include a proposal for the 2017 summer program. Central office is in the process of hiring a new part-time coordinator for summer learning using the remainder of the 2016 funds. Next, we received an update from the Portland High School's principal, Ms. Jepson, informing the board of 3 new courses for the fall. These will be digital photography, computer science 2, it's a gaming, and a capstone. The capstone class will be at both Deering High School and Portland High School to provide an option for students to complete their capstone project graduation requirement. All 3 of these courses require no new staff or budget resources. We also began further review of the policy JICI, athletic and co-curricular policy. We will continue discussing this policy and its edits on our next curriculum meeting with the high school principals and athletic directors. The purpose of this review is to better align JICI with our proficiency requirements. Finally, Ms. Prey provided an update of the district's proficiency-based work. We will review updates at each curriculum meeting going forward. The district is finalizing information that will be distributed to eighth grade parents at upcoming parent-teacher conferences. Our next curriculum committee needs to be, our next curriculum committee meeting needs to be rescheduled in March, and we will be announcing the new date at our next board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Operations, Ms. Davis.
The Operations Committee has met, I think, twice since the board last met. We met on the 2nd of February and then again on February 14th. And I appreciate staff and board members for coming out on Valentine's Day. We've been talking about the Sebago Technics report and are anxiously awaiting its finalization, and we'll be getting a timeline of when to expect that. We had a detailed discussion about it. We've also talked about the Ocean Avenue Hall and East End Community School and the enrollment management, and looking both at the current and future ways that we have been and would be addressing that in the future. You'll see that come to the board eventually. We discussed the school renovation revolving funds, where we were awarded funds for Longfellow School to work on the elevator. Although we will be sort of pausing for a while on actually beginning work to see what happens with the state funding and the buildings for our future. There's sort of things up in the air, and it would need to be coordinated with those. We talked about our goals, and as the superintendent alluded, we also talked about applications to the major school construction fund. So that's been pretty much it, and we talked about our goals for the upcoming year, so we'll discuss that in more detail next week. Our next meeting is March 28th.
Thank you. Finance, Ms. Hatzenbuehler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We also on Valentine's Day, we had the finance. It was a very busy Valentine's Day, worst one ever. We had the finance committee meeting where we talked a little bit about the budget development. Also last week there was a finance committee for the city council that was not officially joint, but they invited the finance. Was it officially joint? I don't think so. But many of us were there. There was a presentation of like the superintendent said, the CIP, the city manager's recommendation for CIP, and the mayor presented on buildings for our future to the council, and gave the city finance committee the opportunity to ask questions, and other councilors who were also there had the opportunity to ask questions about both of those items. Also at our last finance meeting, we met our new budget manager, who I can't remember her name.
Ann Cromer.
Ann Cromer. She's internally coming from the
Accounting Department.
Yes. Okay, great. And so I believe the next time we are having budget conversation, the superintendent will be presenting the budget to the full board on March 7th. I am having some thoughts about that, normally the committee receives information about that before the full board is presented to it, but I could be wrong about that. Am I right about that? Yes. No?
We don't get the budget we don't get the budget before the board gets it, but sometimes preliminary information. I understand that the state has still not come out with their revenue estimates. Is that correct?
They actually did on Friday.
Oh, they did.
So we, as of Friday, have those revenue projections. We did speak at the Finance Committee meeting about sort of the general framework of the budget as we just sort of, as we rolled contracts and things along those lines. And, I felt that was my effort to sort of engage the Finance Committee on that. We will not be at a point where we'll have anything to share, until the March 7th date. And, I do want to point out on the revenue side that what we received on Friday is based on the governor's proposed budget. So it is, a devastating blow to the school district in terms of revenue. So obviously, that's all we have, so we're going to, attempt to reflect what we are able to do in that financial environment when I present the budget on March 7th. But, we did talk about what the general sort of increase in expenditures would be absent the revenue picture, just by rolling forward contracts and normal escalation and things along those lines. And I outlined for the committee what, what I was thinking was possible to do before we actually knew about the revenue picture, and obviously that changes the picture significantly. So we've, adjusted just today based on, that understanding of the revenue picture.
Thank you for that. So, two things to think about as that moves forward. I have one question. Is it an appropriate time to ask a question? Do we know in those revenue projections how it affects other city centers in the state? Is Portland hit particularly hard? Is it similar to what's going on? Do you have some information on that?
We have, at this point, we have access to all of it. And so we have looked at the Cumberland County, so our neighboring communities, the ones that we network with regularly, and then some of the other larger urban centers in the state.
Just to Ms. Hafton-Bueller's question, yes, all of the school districts, school administrative units are all posted online, ED 279s, and you can look it up. I do know that there are some independent organizations that will be doing some analysis with a comparison that can help school districts like ours get the bigger picture of funding loss and shifts as a consequence to the governor's reforms.
One last
Go ahead. You still have the floor.
Oh, so I don't have to ask for the floor? I've got it? Okay. So the other thing I'm thinking about is last year, the Portland delegation was really instrumental in getting $1.5 million more, or at least 50. I think it was like half of the, almost half. So I'm just hoping that we can really mobilize that quickly and efficiently and effectively, like we did last year, because it's looking bleakish. So.
Yes, absolutely. And they are, as you know, as Mrs. Davis knows, they're already engaged. We've been talking about this with the delegation for, some time, and the Education Committee is very engaged around those reforms that are being proposed. So, obviously there's a long road ahead before this actually gets, finalized, but yes.
Okay, and maybe identifying particular representatives or senator who might be willing to spearhead some of that. I know that Representative Farnsworth has been particularly effective in the past, and perhaps Senator Chipman too, so, okay, thank you. And our next Finance Committee meeting is sometime in March. There's a bunch of them. March is like fall. And there's joint ones too that have not been confirmed with the city, and as soon as they are, we'll let everyone know, okay?
Thank you. Policy and Legislative and Public Affairs. I understand Ms. Thompson will be updating us tonight.
I'm not going to update on the policy side. We did have a policy committee meeting, but I'm not going to talk about that. Real quickly, on the public affairs, this is not in relation to the reports that are going to be part of the workshop. As part of the charge, when the board considered having a public affairs committee, we had said that we would report back to the full board as to the development and what happened. And so that's what this summary is in front of you, is from the launch of when we all agreed to explore the public affairs and what we've done over the last year and a half, and the various forums we've had and some of the themes that came about. So there's no need for me to read this now. I will send it to have it posted to the web. But again, this is a summary from 15 and 16 of the work that we did, and hopefully the board continues. It's no longer a pilot since it's now a committee. So that's that.
Ms. Crocker, do you have anything to add for the update for the committee?
I would merely add that the Policy Committee has met recently, discussed what priorities would be, still need to make some distinct determinations about that, and we'll be meeting again in March.
Thank you. Are there other committees and/or member concerns? Ms. Thompson? And then Ms. Davis.
Thank you, Ms. Trevorrow. I wanted to, I covered the public affairs, but I also wanted to ask a couple quick questions and then also make a statement if you'll indulge me. With regards to Ms. Hatzenbuehler's question about finance, I'm just hoping that the process has changed quite a bit over the last 5 years of how we go about the finances and the presentation. So I'm hoping that the full board will get a schedule with what's going to be discussed at each meeting so we can attend and pop in and pop out, because the process has changed quite a bit over the years. So there has been...
There's a calendar with all that information.
Okay, with what's going to be covered at each meeting? That's what I'm looking for. It's not the dates. I have the dates and the times, but the topics is what I'm looking for.
Okay, I'm meeting with Alicia tomorrow.
Great.
I'll do that.
Thank you. And I think the public would like to know that too, because we've changed, again, our process over the years. And I just want to ask the superintendent if you could just, you had made mention through email with regards to pulling the parent partnership policy being removed, and I would just ask you if you could just make a mention of that, because when I left the last workshop we had, that it seemed as though people were in favor, and I just have a concern that if there are any kind of changes, that it comes back for review to the board, and that we have a new first read of any changes that have been suggested since that workshop.
Yes, and I meant to talk about that during the other committees and member concerns. So I wanted to, first of all, apologize because the packet that went out for today's meeting was missing the documents that were included in the packet that went out for when the same meeting was scheduled for February 7th. That included a large number of documents that were developed by by staff in response to the questions that were raised at the workshop. So you have at your desks today, we've provided that information, and that should have been in the packet that went out in preparation for this meeting, but you already actually had that from the February 7th packet. So after one of our recent meetings, I believe it was the January 30th meeting on to ratify the buildings for our future ad hoc committee report. Ms. Hatzenbuehler, Ms. Davis, and I met along with Angela Atkinson-Duenas to sort of go through some of the concerns that had been raised primarily by Ms. Davis at the first reading of that policy. And so we had a constructive conversation about that. We are working with Ms. Davis to incorporate some of the issues that she raised and, bring those back to the way that we're looking at it. If those are substantive changes, they will first have to go back to the Parent Engagement Policy Committee before they're brought back to the board. So again, we don't have them yet. I know that Ms. Davis is working with Ms. Atkinson-Duenas on that, and as soon as we have them, we will obviously know whether there's reason to bring that forward as a second reading here, or bring it back to the Parent Engagement Committee for further discussion.
Great. And I just have two more things, and then I'll be done with my member concerns. I was not at the Operations Committee meeting and the strategy for applying for 4 schools. I think that in talking to some community members today, that they're kind of a little surprised by that. And I guess if we could get some sort of communication out as to the thinking process as for what we were applying, because I think even board members that are not here this evening weren't aware of what the strategy was for that. And I think there are some concerns expressed from parents that are not here this evening because of February vacation that they would like to express about us applying for the 4 schools and what repercussions that may have as we progress through with the board endorsement of the 61 million. So if we could get some information around that in some sort of memo format so parents can follow along, that would be great, as well as the community as a whole. And lastly, I also thought that there was going to be a public statement from our chair that we had all worked on, and I understand that it was replaced with the resolution. But there are also a couple things that I wanted to mention, and that we got over 250 plus emails, and they were all in support of Superintendent Botana's actions, and also their support for this board and supporting the school district. And I just want to thank the people that took the time to email us, also send out postcards. I got a lot of postcards and letters, etc. That was great. And I just want to read one of them that I think kind of keeps it in the middle of the road without, but this is the sentiment from a lot of people that were writing to us. And this person said, blah, blah, blah. I was appalled when I heard of the hatred and threats that students experienced recently in Portland. I was relieved they were all physically safe, but sad and scared that this had happened in the city I love so dearly. When Superintendent Botana responded so quickly with such compassion and clarity about what our values are as Mainers and global citizens, I felt reassured that Portland students, many of them vulnerable under current state and federal administrations, are in strong, caring, and capable hands. People wanted to make sure that you, although you don't want the clapping of the hands, that the community wanted to know that they wanted to voice to you their strong support for your actions and your commitment to safety, justice, and equity, and that your courageous and righteous actions are leading the way toward better and more secure futures for all of us, including our young people, and that other cities look to Portland as an example and a leader and help make sure the best possible example is set. The only other thing I would share is one that we received from a Casco Bay parent, and again, they run the gamut, but all, again, in full support of this district and our superintendent. And this other one, just briefly, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but she says, I'm a Casco Bay High School parent, the mother of 2 immigrants, and an individual who celebrates inclusivity and diversity, and my family is extraordinarily grateful for his strong stance on both the hate crime that happened in our city, as well as his response to the hateful national rhetoric and the recent executive actions. What is happening on the national stage directly affects many Portland students and families, and I truly appreciate Superintendent Botana's and Principal Pierce's responses, which demonstrate support and safety to the entire community, students, families, and faculty alike. We believe in their words and will continue to fight for and protect what is right for all of our students and families. I'm not going to read about the political part, but they felt that this was a humanity and compassion statement, and that we are fortunate to live in a city and be a part of a school system that is dedicated to preserving democratic ideals and principles and keeping our children safe. And they would like to thank you on behalf of all Portland families. And again, I think all of us had a hard time keeping up on all of them, for those of us that respond to all the emails, and I was overwhelmed with a great response. So I just want to let you know that we got it from every angle, and even some from out of state, so thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Davis?
And I would echo that I did hear from a lot of folks who were very supportive. I also heard from folks who were moved for the first time to reach out to me as a school board member and express that they have a different viewpoint. And I had some excellent conversations with people with whom I probably agree very little. But by listening and hearing and sharing our viewpoints, we really were able to come to an agreement and an understanding of what we did have in common. And I think while Portland is, by and large, a majority liberal and progressive city, there are people who live in our city who do not share those views. That does not mean that they hate immigrants or that they are going to attack people or be violent. They just do not happen to share the liberal progressive views that were expressed. And they have a right to their viewpoints as well. And I just want to underscore that for those who may be in a minority viewpoint, that I believe that there is room in this city for a variety of viewpoints, and that everyone should feel safe in contacting us and expressing those viewpoints, whether they are part of the majority or part of the minority. It is that diversity of viewpoints and that conversation that can happen. That's probably one of the best conversations I've had with a constituent in recent memory, because I gained understanding of why they believed so differently than I do. And that was valuable, because I need to understand that. And it could only happen because they felt safe enough to reach out. So just wanted to add that, because there is a diversity, and I think sometimes there's a tend of an echo chamber where we hear each other. We talk with people who share our views, and it can be uncomfortable to go and talk with people who don't share those views. Having knocked on doors this past fall, I knocked on doors with Trump signs in the front yard. And no matter what, that we made different choices in presidential politics, but I am their school board member. And I need to hear from them and hear their concerns, just as I hear from folks who voted differently on a national or a state scale. We are nonpartisan. We are nonpartisan representatives. And I think that that's an important hat that I continually try to put on and listen to the diversity of constituents, families, students, parents, and taxpayers who are out in our community. What I did want to share is that we will be having a hall building committee meeting on March 1st. And we will be talking with them, I think, about the plans for the relocation of students. We have been some changes over the past month about how we'll be handling the fact that we need to to tear down some of the school in order to build the new school. So we'll be talking about that and any number of other issues that we haven't got an agenda yet that will be coming to us as we move forward with this state-funded school. So that will be March 1st, Wednesday, 6 p.m. in the Hall School Library.
Thank you. Sure.
And I just wanted to comment on that last point, that we are planning to update the whole board on that issue at the, I believe at the February 28th meeting on the hall relocation plans.
Okay. Moving on to consent items. Would the superintendent please read the items into record?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Peaks Island Elementary School received snacks valued at $35 from Lisa Lynch of Peaks Island. Peaks Island also received $175 to purchase food to feature for their clean plate meal presentation from Hannigan's Island Market on Peaks Island. Portland Schools Title I programs received books valued at $2,000 from Barnes & Noble of Newington, New Hampshire. Deering High School received 6 hardcover books valued at $75 from Cole Ridley of Portland. Reike Elementary School received the following donations: snow pants and jackets valued at $600 for their coat closet from Christine Byrne and the Portland Rotary of Portland. $200 from Judy George and the Book Club of Portland. 70 backpacks and supplies for first graders valued at $800 from Anya Tomaszewski of Southwick, Massachusetts. Vacation kits with books, markers, pencils, activity sheets, and snacks for 325 students valued at $2,000 from Mary Beth Turcotte of Portland. $1,500 to pay for field trips for grade 1 students to Wolf Neck and Pineland Farms from the Bug Light Foundation. Technology valued at $1,000 from Rachel Solgan of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Moore Middle School received $400 from Shaw's Northgate of Portland. Paths received women's clothes for their coat closet from Karen Hosnecht. We actually practiced that. Lincoln Middle School received the following donations: Thanksgiving baskets valued at $200 for Lincoln families from People's United Bank of Portland. Thanksgiving meals valued at $400 for 7 Lincoln families from Sun Life Financial of Scarborough. $200 to the Keith Mason Fund, as well as 3 $25 Shaw's gift cards to families in need from Mr. David Field and Miss Michelle Roy of Portland. $360 worth of various gift cards for students in need over the holiday seasons, given by various Lincoln Middle School staff, students, and families. Bayside Learning Community received the following donations: winter jackets and clothing for 10 students, valued at $1,200 from Olympia Sports of Westbrook. Turkey dinners for 20 families, valued at $1,000 from $1,000 from Cheverus High School of Portland, and 10 bags of food for families, valued at $300 from Morgan Stanley Wealth Management of Portland. These are just wonderful examples of the generosity of this community towards each other through our schools, and I would like to extend my thank you to all of them.
Thank you. Moving into old business. Consideration and action to approve the 2017-2018 school calendar. Is there a motion? Ms. Davis, seconded by Ms. Hatzenbuehler. Are there any questions on the motion? Mr. Rodriguez?
Thank you, Chair. So I just had a question. I threw around an idea of maybe printing the dates of the school board meetings on the flip side of the calendar. So my question was, number 1, is that possible? Number 2, what do we need to do as a board to do? Is there a specific action that needs to be made, like an amendment? And and if that would be something we could look into.
So I don't know about the specific action part of that. That's something I think that you can discuss. I know that we talked briefly, Ms. Crocker and I, about that. We do not print centrally those calendars. They're printed at the school level. We can build it as a two-page document and ask people to sort of print it double-sided, which I think is your suggestion. So, I mean, I think that's a good idea. It's a good way. I know that the board would, want to ensure that people know when the board meetings are and where they're being held. So we can do that. Obviously, board meetings change over the course of the year, so, that runs the risk of somebody coming to a meeting that's been rescheduled somewhere else, but, we would always hope that people would double-check before they actually come, so.
So it sounds like that's something we could do administratively. Your question?
And if that's satisfactory to you, that's fine. Listening to that, I understand the sentiment and agree with the sentiment. I just, whatever makes you feel that, it's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And clearly, we're here tonight, rescheduled a meeting that we had to because of the weather. So, yeah, I'm assuming some sort of asterisk saying, these dates could change, locations could change, and to, point to the website as the most accurate way or most updated way to check on the dates and locations. But yeah, if that's something that administratively that we can do without us passing a special motion, then I think we should at least look into it and pursue it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for the suggestion. Any other questions on the motion? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the motion? It's funny every time. Seeing none, is there any board discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I would call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the 2017-2018 school calendar, please indicate. It's unanimous with the student voting in the affirmative. Moving into new business, we have 3 first reads tonight. A first read to revise policy IKF graduation requirements. First read to revise policy IHCDA, post-secondary enrollment options. First read to approve the PAE 2017-2018 calendar. And moving into personnel. Consideration and action to approve the personnel items listed. Election of probationary teachers. Is there a motion? Ms. Thompson, seconded by Ms. Vendel. Are there any questions on the motion? Ms. Vendel?
I'm just asking a clarifying question. Is the items listed under personnel within the school approved budget that we passed this last year?
Yes, the only item that has budget implications is the election of probationary teachers item, and that is something that, this individual is actually already working in our schools, and this is moving from a temporary position to a probationary position as certification has come into, has been established.
Ms. Thompson?
I was just going to ask, since there is only one, if we could just read into record the person's name, where it is, and then their experience, just for the record, where there is, again, only one, and the other ones we can take as a slate. How about that?
Thank you. Be glad to. We're recommending that the board elect as a probationary teacher Alexis Kanamaguri, who is a teacher of French at Moore. Mr. Kanamaguri holds a BA in French from the University du Burundi, and Mr. Kanamaguri worked for the Ministry of Education for 12 years teaching in Burundi.
Any other questions on the motion? All right, where this is a personnel item, there is no public comment. Any board discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I would call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the personnel items listed, so indicate. And it's unanimous with the student voting in the affirmative.
Do we need to do a separate motion for the...
That's what I was wondering. We do need to vote on that. Could we read them separately, or? Okay, so we're just 2 votes then? Yes. Okay. Right. So consideration and action to renew the contracts of principals for the 2017-2018 school year who have been employed more than 2 years pursuant to MRSA Title 20A, Chapter 504, 13301, Employment of Principals. Is there a motion? Ms. Thompson, seconded by Ms. Vendel. Are there any questions on the motion? Seeing none, and we have no public comment on this item either, is there any board discussion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of renewing the contracts of principals for the 2017-18 school year who have been employed more than 2 years pursuant to MRSA Title 20-A, Chapter 504, 13301, Employment of Principals, please indicate. It's unanimous with the student voting in the affirmative. And lastly, consideration and action to renew the contracts of principals for the 2017-18 school year who have been employed 2 years or less pursuant to MRSA Title 20-A, Chapter 504, 13301, Employment of Principals. Is there a motion? Mr. Rodriguez, seconded by Ms. Davis. Are there any questions on the motion? Seeing none, we have no public comment. Any board discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I would call for a vote. All those in favor of renewing the contracts of principals for the 2017-18 school year who have been employed 2 years or less pursuant to MRSA Title 20-A, Chapter 504, 13301, Employment of Principals, please signify. It's unanimous with the student voting in the affirmative. Moving on to board focus on educational issues. There are none this evening. And we have no public to comment, and we did that earlier. So with that, I would call for a motion for adjournment. Ms. Davis, seconded by Ms. Thompson. All those in favor? It is unanimous.